Pioneer brand canola with Optimum Gly, the highest yielding glyphosate-tolerant trait on the market. What's next in canola happens here.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Monday edition of the show. It's Agronomic Monday. Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. Also, big shout out to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast. It is great to have everybody with us here again today. I am back. I took a few days off. I really only missed Thursday and Friday show. But it was great, and I really appreciate Lindsay Smith filling in, doing a great job as the guest host on Thursday and at Friday. Listened to it all, and she did a fantastic job. The guests were great information, and hope you had yourself a great weekend yourselves. So, hey, today on the show, it's Agronomic Monday. We're going to cover a lot of different topics. We're going to be joined today by Peter Wheat Johnson. Of course, we're going to get an update on how that corn harvest is proceeding in Eastern Canada. We're also going to talk about fall weed controls. The snow starts to fly in parts of Western Canada, and the temperatures dip below zero freezing. What does that mean? We'll also be talking to Allana Lewchuk of BASF for a Canola School episode, talking about the differences between commercial canola and specialty canola, and why specialty canola may have a fit in your rotation. And we'll also be joined by Aidan Filipchuk from Pride Seeds, talking about matching your corn silage hybrid to your field potential. I think kind of a conversation that applies to any crop type. Same principles exist. Now, if you have any questions, any thoughts, any comments, any takes, I want to hear from you. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Want to take a break? We're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into the meat of it when we come back. You're listening to RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM.
Get ready for tillage season with the high-speed disc from Brandt. Cut and size residue, create ideal seed beds, and level ruts faster than any other tillage machine. It's a better field finish and fewer passes, so you can stay on schedule no matter what fall throws at you. And right now, you can get yours with a $12,000 rebate. There's never been a better time to bring your operation up to speed. Visit Brandt.ca for details.
Welcome back to RealAg Radio. I am Lindsay Smith. Joining me now is Amy Crozier. She's the Senior Ag Specialties Rep for Nutrient, thinking about removal, but also think about nutrient uptake. So what our crop is going to need. How do we put those two things together when we're thinking about our purchasing decisions for the next year?
So it's very important to soil test. Know your geography. Are we short on water? Is our yield potential 30? Is our yield potential 50? Understanding what we're going for and aiming for. What's in our soil? Did we have disease issues? Did we have low proteins? Did we not meet our expectations? Is there nothing left in the tank when we're finishing off our crop? Did we have maturity issues? So all these different things put together can help influence those decisions. Maybe we want to change our strategy to have some season-long feeding products, depending on what our soil test tells us and what our crop is telling us when we're taking it off.
Where can farmers and their advisors go for more information?
You can go to our website, it's smartnitrogen.com.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Agronomic Monday. The answer to your above-the-ground nitrogen loss problem is Anvil Nitrogen Stabilizer from Koch Agronomic Services. To learn how Anvil's dual active ingredients deliver extended protection, all you got to do is visit kochag.ca. Let's talk agronomy with everyone's favorite agronomist. At least he's the agronomist that brings the most energy. It is Peter Wheat Johnson. Pete, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks, Shaun. It is a glorious sunny day here in Ontario. You know, whenever it's sunny, that Pete is a happy camper. It's like we're back to summertime temperatures almost. We're in the 20s, not just low 20s, but still, that's pretty outstanding. Great opportunity for fall weed control because the temperatures are pretty good right now. Harvest is just flying. I had a text from a grower saying, man, it's going to be like 1991. All the yields are incredible. The corn is super dry. We are going to be done by Halloween.
Yeah.
And I won't tell you the rest of his comments because it was about 1992, the year we had no summer. And, anyway, hopefully we don't repeat that one. But no, life is good, Shaun. I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, I've been hearing from a few growers in Ontario about just how sort of surprised they are how the weather has cooperated. And I don't know if we'll break a record for completion of corn harvest, but people are going to be done way ahead of the 5-year average.
Absolutely. I'm not sure what the record is, Shaun. I know in 91 we finished really early, so that would be the other year that's probably quite similar to this year from a timing of harvest standpoint. Interestingly enough, though, we probably won't finish harvest maybe as early as we did in 91, because don't forget, there was a big chunk of acres that didn't get the corn planted until the 15th or 18th of June because we had way too much moisture in those areas in the spring, right? And so we have some late planted corn that actually still needs some weather to get to black layer. So I think the early crop is going to be off very early, but there is some late crop still to come out of the field.
Well, meanwhile, in Western Canada, I know in Alberta today we're getting some snow, Pete. Snow.
Yeah. So we did have snowflakes at Alliston last week. We had some cold nights. We saw a few snowflakes in the air. They melted on contact. But I did see a picture out of the Peace River district where they actually had accumulation of snow on the ground, Shaun.
Yeah.
So like Canada's a big place, right? And Peace River is fairly far north. And from that perspective, probably not unusual to have snow this time of year. You can keep the snow in Alberta for just now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's some places I think today are supposed to get like 10 upwards of 10 centimeters. So that's more than a skiff.
That's more than a skiff. You can keep it, Shaun. We don't want it here yet. I like these temperatures way better than cold temperatures.
Okay, so you mentioned fall weed control. And we're going to get snow today. It's going to melt and we're going to be above freezing, the rest of the week, but cool. Fall weed control. How does that coolness impact our strategies when it comes to fall weed control in the West?
Yeah. So if we're West, then now we're looking at doing fall weed control for either winter annual weeds or for perennial weeds. Annual weeds are off the table at this point. And so then as long as they're not glyphosate tolerant, there's two things you look at. One is, do we still have green leaf tissue? So every weed species has a different tolerance for cold temperatures before it kind of goes dormant or before those leaves get frozen off. If the leaves are frozen, Shaun, you're done. But I doubt at this point, because most perennial or winter annual weeds will take temperatures as low as -9 Celsius before the leaf tissue is killed. I doubt you've had -9 Celsius overnight. So leaves still green, then glyphosate still works on green leaf tissue reasonably well right until nighttime temperatures get to -4 Celsius.
Hey, we're -4 today. Tonight will be -4.
Okay, so then at -4, you're really getting pretty questionable. If it's below -4, you quit. -4 is kind of the lowest it can get where you still continue to do glyphosate and expect some level of control. Let's be real. If it was +4 at night, you're going to get better control than you do at -4, but you still get very good control. Like at -4, you maybe get 85% control. If it was +4, you might be at 95% control. But if you look at 85% control on some of those tough to kill weeds, things that get really tough in the spring, dandelion, perennial sow thistle, Canada thistle, 85% control in the fall is probably better than what you can do in the spring, at least on some of those weeds. So you're still better off to get it done in the fall if you have that capability. Little different situation in winter wheat here in Ontario. And I had a question from Brian out of Michigan on I think Saturday anyway, it doesn't matter. And he was asking about his winter wheat. It's all seeded, it's up, it's looking good. He always has trouble with grasses, wind grass in particular in Michigan. Here in Ontario, it's annual ryegrass, it's orchard grass, it's bluegrass. And he was asking about fall weed control for grass control in his winter wheat. And the answer is absolutely. We get so much better control in the fall out of products like Simplicity or Varro. And with those products, if we can get, +3, 37 Fahrenheit for the US counterparts, +3 Celsius, if we can do that the day before, the day of, the day after, we've talked about that, right? But so a little bit different here in Ontario because we're still looking at fall weed control in our growing winter wheat crop. In Western Canada, -4. If you can get -4 for those 3 days, day before, day of, day after, go for it, as long as you have green leaf tissue. Here in Ontario, if you're doing fall burn down, then it's still that -4. But remember that glyphosate works better at warmer temperatures. So the warmer you can play it, the better off you are.
Yeah. This is the time of the year where we do see the big fluctuations in temperature, right? Fall can be pretty volatile temperature-wise. So we got to not only be looking at today's forecast, but out ahead to make sure we get that efficacy that we are looking for. And it also factors into bin storage. Also, always a good idea to be checking those bins shortly after harvest here.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Shaun, so some of your harvest and some of the harvest here in Ontario as well, like we were harvesting crops, soybeans with temperatures 28 Celsius, 25 Celsius,
Good point.
like way warmer than normal. And if you put that hot product, the hot grain in the bin, and you don't cool it down, you can get convective currents in the bin and you get condensation, and you can put it in at 13% moisture and pull it out in 6 months and have mush because of that convection in there, moving that moisture, and you get hot spots and then it just rots. So it's really important to make sure you cool that grain down. And in Western Canada, you're getting to zero Celsius or -4. Again, you gotta turn the air on. You gotta keep that grain mass within, if you can, 10 degrees of ambient air temperature. If you can keep it within 10 degrees of ambient air temperature, then you don't get those convective currents nearly as much in that grain mass. So great point, Shaun. Absolutely. Make sure it takes a whole lot to get it in the bin. Once it's there, for goodness sakes, please keep it in good condition.
And you're talking 10C, right?
10 Celsius, correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
10 Celsius.
Got to make sure we get that, confirm that. Yeah, you're right. We work so hard through the growing season, and then to lose a portion of a bin, or maybe unfortunately the entire bin at this stage, your costs are in, right? Like you like it's nothing but heartbreak. And if it's one of those things where if you've ever gone through that experience, you always say to you, I will never do that again. Because it is, and there's close calls as well where it's like, oh my goodness, glad we went out there and we checked, right? And that's why there's a lot of value in some of these bin monitoring systems where it's on your phone and your computer, so you don't need to be going bin to bin, especially when we really get cold from a Canadian winter perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the bin sensor technology, but it never hurts because the bin sensors, they're great, but they tend not to, pick up the whole grain mass. So once in a while, particularly when you're getting those big temperature swings, right? If we get into the deep winter in Western Canada and you freeze that grain mass, you get it down at -10 Celsius, nothing's likely to happen until things really warm up in the spring. But man, every once in a while when the temperatures are really fluctuating, just to turn the aeration fan on and go smell the air that's coming out, because if you have a problem, you will be able to smell that problem. And sometimes just because, sensors are great, but they aren't on every kernel or in every
Yeah.
space in the bin. That nose test is always a good thing.
The old management by walking around, right? Inspection by walking around, not just, those, like you said, the technology's great, but with our own eyes and our own senses is also a good practice, just as a double up. Just as a double up,
absolutely.
Right? It
Crawl up the bin, open the lid, stick your head in, feel the top of the grain mass, see if there's a crust forming. That's a bad thing if you're seeing a crust, and
Right.
smell, right? And if you're an osmic, send somebody else up to smell.
Yeah, not good for my hay fever.
Fair enough.
Especially in that barley. He might talk to you about the pre-emergent soil active herbicides, Valterra EZ and Fierce EZ from New Farm. Get ahead of hard-to-kill weeds. Spray this fall for up to 8 weeks of extended weed control next spring. Find out more by going to newfarm.ca. Shaun Haney, Peter Johnson, and we're here on Agronomic Monday, and we'll be right back right after this quick break.
Your Co-op Grow team are your local experts because we live here too. Our agronomic specialists stay up to date with the latest research and technology to help support your entire farm operation. Talk to our team for advice tailored to your farm's needs. We have recommendations to help you optimize your crop yield and quality while enhancing the health of your land. Co-op, we're all growing together. Here for your farm, here for your family. Learn more at coop.crs/farm.
Infuse some energy into your next corporate event, customer meeting, or conference with RealAg Radio, Canada's national agriculture radio show. Create a unique experience at your next event with host Shaun Haney, broadcasting RealAg Radio live on SiriusXM, featuring exciting guests, captivating interviews, and the latest news from the agriculture community. Contact advertising at realagriculture.com or call 587-787-1795 to book your on location with RealAg Radio today.
There's a reason we call it the Corn School. Videos on everything from planter setup to weed control, field trial results, and the latest yield strategies. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com has the information and advice you need to help you succeed. Brought to you by Pride Seeds and BASF. Corn School episodes are available at cornschool.com, from realagriculture.com, or as a podcast in your favorite podcast app. Check out the latest Corn School episode today.
Welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Agronomic Monday. Your host, Shaun Haney, joined by Peter Pete Johnson. This segment was brought to you by Pioneer brand canola with Optimum Gly, the highest yielding glyphosate-tolerant trait on the market. What's next in canola happens here. Go to pioneer.com/Canada to find out more. Okay, Pete, we were talking in the last segment about the speed at which corn harvest is being completed in Eastern Canada. And we've been talking for weeks here about the tar spot load. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, evaluation of strategies on how to properly manage it. And we're still learning a lot about tar spot. There's still chapters to be written in terms of the management of it. Has there been any interesting findings or did you know that based on this year's harvest related to tar spot?
So I think there has been, and I think for all of us, Shaun, because it's a new disease. And I mean, it's not new worldwide, but it's new to the Great Lakes Basin, and it's spreading really quickly. And that's what's going to happen. And one of the things about tar spot in the Great Lakes Basin, because we have so much humidity most years, once you have tar spot, it's going to be there basically forever. And you're just going to have to manage for it. So a couple of things that we're absolutely learning. I think last Tuesday I talked with Lindsay, and we did Agronomic Tuesday because Monday was a holiday. Yep. And I said on the air that we actually had about a 20 to 35 bushel per acre yield loss. And some of the growers were listening, and immediately I got two different different plot results sent to me after Agronomic Tuesday saying, Pete, like our yield loss is way more than 35 bushels per acre. And so one plot was a great plot. It was 3-rep test, 68 bushel per acre yield loss. But the grower prefaced it with it was a highly susceptible variety. And the other plot that I got sent to me was if I recall correctly, was a 55 bushel per acre loss.
55?
So these are 55 and 68, Shaun. So these are massive yield losses, right? Like, holy cow. But what's interesting, two things. The lower yield loss numbers, the 20 to 35 that I talked about, that was on tolerant varieties. And so there is a big genetic difference. But not only that, that was coming from areas that were not as weather stressed. And one of the things we're learning about tar spot is that additive stresses make it much worse. It's almost like that north of London area, the area that got too much water, that got 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches of rainfall in a 2 or 3 hour period when the corn was, I don't know, knee high or something in that range. And it looked like the corn handled it better than the soybeans did, but that corn was more stressed than we realized. And tar spot, it's as if corn loses its ability to tolerate or to try to slow the spread of tar spot if it has an additive stress. And so when we look at tar spot, additive stresses are making a big difference in how much the fungicides are needing to carry the load against that tar spot.
So it doesn't know how to divide up its defense mechanisms. So to speak, it's almost like you get really stressed out at work, right? And that's, you don't sleep as well. You're really tired.
And next thing you know, you have cold. Right. Next thing you know, you have pneumonia. Exactly. Because your defenses are down. And it's like the corn crop is having the same reaction. It's almost as if it goes under stress. Under stress, maybe it doesn't make as much photosynthate. If it doesn't make as much photosynthate, the plant can't generate whatever compounds it needs to generate to slow the spread or reduce the infection of that tar spot, and we are seeing increased incidence. The other end of that spectrum, and this is the one that growers really have to be careful of, is that when we get to the tail end of the season, so the corn is almost mature, it's really starting to dry down, man, the tar spot goes crazy. So a lot of producers walked into their fields at harvest that hadn't been maybe following along as closely as they could have. And they said, oh my gosh, this is a disaster. Like the corn crop is wiped out. That reaction, and they're, next year we got to do this. It's actually not so bad. That tar spot at the tail end of the season has not had the big impact on yields or on kernel mass. I was really worried because there was a lot of corn that really in September was loaded with tar spot. Now remember, most of that corn tasseled in July and it black layered about the 25th of September, give or take. I walked into those fields on the 5th of September, the 10th of September. They're loaded with tar spot. And I was worried that they wouldn't have good kernel mass, that the kernels would be smaller. And by the way, Shaun, the one grower with the 68 bushel per acre yield loss, where they left the strips that they didn't spray with fungicide, they emailed me pictures of their cobs, and where they had sprayed the fungicide, they had big, massive kernels and they still had lots of tar spot. But where they didn't spray, they had little tiny kernels. We are seeing very big kernel mass this year. That tar spot, after the fungicide was applied, it kind of warded it off until September 5th, September 10th. And my concern that we wouldn't build kernel mass doesn't seem to be there. We are getting kernels that like 70,000 kernels per bushel. We generally have used 85, 90, 95,000 kernels per bushel. This year at 70,000 kernels per bushel, the yield gain you get when like you walk into your field late August, you do the number of cobs per acre and the number of kernels per cob. And you do that math and you say, oh gosh, it's kind of mediocre, 200 bushel per acre corn. If I use 90,000 kernels, you do 70,000 kernels. And all of a sudden you have almost a 25% increase in that yield guess. So now it's not 200 bushel corn, it's 250 bushel corn, and there are lots of 250s, 260s, 270s out there that is just way better than any of us really anticipated.
Oh, okay. So what are we seeing with corn that got fungicide that didn't have tar spot?
So the gain from that fungicide is much less. And it's more in that 10 bushel per acre range. Now, tar spot is spreading, and so I have to actually go almost east of Toronto or north of maybe Goderich before I get into areas that didn't have enough tar spot to have an impact. And it's moved into those areas. Once you have it, you just have to be aware of it. But man, fungicide the response is still there. You still get something from, you add Stay Green, but the difference in that yield gain is massive if you don't have disease. And this year, tar spot, if you didn't spray, wow, in the tar spot area, we're just going to have to watch tar spotter if it's a humid year, which it probably will be 3 years out of 4, 4 years out of 5, maybe 9 years out of 10. I don't know what that number is, but there will be years. 2021 was one, 2022 rather. 2022 was a year where we really didn't have to spray very much because it was so dry throughout that July period. We didn't have the leaf wetness. But man, most years we're just going to get hammered.
So where we do have a good news story is soybean yields in Manitoba and also Eastern Ontario. Strong soybean yields.
Oh, that Eastern Ontario area, man, I don't know what it is about that area, but it's sort of like almost paradise or a Fantasia world. This year, Paul Herman's great agronomist with Pioneer Corteva, and he sent me the average plot yield data. So last year in 2023, they had an outstanding soybean year, and their plot yield on average was 61.5 bushels per acre. So far in 2024, with almost all the plots taken off, and he says, a lot of the same farmers, field across the road, like soil types, there should be a lot of similarities. Not 61.5 bushels per acre, Shaun, 67.3. It's like a 6 bushel, a 10% yield gain over what was an awesome year last year. If we don't set record soybean yields here in the province of Ontario this year, it will be because of those areas in southwestern Ontario that just got hammered with too much rain and, have the big variability in the fields where they get zero yield here. Where it's good in southwestern Ontario, it's still good. But you go to Eastern Ontario, and sounds like Manitoba's the same. It is incredible.
Yeah, I'm hearing about some soybean yields in Manitoba over 70.
Yeah, awesome.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeehaw. So soybeans are easy to grow, man. Who cares?
That's what some Ontario growers tell me about canola. And then after they get, any that's like a jinx. Anytime in the markets when somebody says these price levels are the new normal, or anytime somebody says, oh, that crop, it's easy to grow, there's no problems, no diseases, no pests, it's just simple. Those are all jinxes. It's like as soon as you see something on the front cover of a magazine, like a major magazine, you're like, oh, yeah, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah. The death knell for high prices or for a major newspaper to start talking about high corn prices or high canola prices, it's over. It's all over, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, that ship has sailed. Absolutely. Pete, big plans this week?
Yeah, big plans this week because I've been slow on corn harvest because I was planting the last of my wheat plots. We actually moved residences over the weekend. So I have to do two things. I have to get scouting clients' wheat fields to know if we need to do fall weed control or not. And Pete has to get his darn corn harvested.
Well, some fall tillage may be good for you as well. And Brandt Agricultural Products can help you out with that, Pete. The Brandt high-speed disc is made to manage residue, condition seed beds, level ruts, and reclaim wetlands in the most challenging of conditions. Lead the field with a lineup of versatile high-speed discs from Brandt and achieve better results with every pass and receive a $12,000 rebate for a limited time. Visit brandt.ca for more information. Pete, you do that as soon as we are done here. Have yourself a great week.
Yeah, you as well, Shaun. Thanks so much.
Okay, we'll be right back with more of RealAg Radio here on Agronomic Monday right after this.
If you only listen to RealAg Radio, you only get half the picture. For greater insight into the issues that affect farming, tune in to RealAgriculture.com. Crops, livestock, machinery, farm management, and the markets. Even food and travel. Real Agriculture Online digs deeper into the topics that affect the way you work and live. So get connected today. Read, watch, and listen to the people who know at realagriculture.com.
What were the issues in your fields this year? Did you do a soil sample? What is your soil sample telling you about some of the nutrient issues that you might be having going into next year? What herbicides did you use? What residues you might be concerned about? What weed issues did you have? What crop residues did you have? How well do you know your fields?
Get the answers to all the questions you have about your pulse crop at the Pulse School on realagriculture.com.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Agronomic Monday. Experience the most efficient system for delivering sulfur and phosphate to meet your crop's needs with Smart Nutrition MAP plus MST. Shaun Haney, your host here on Agronomic Monday. It was great to chat with Peter Pete Johnson. Lots happening, of course, in the world of agriculture and for sure agronomics as we try to wrap up harvest in all across the country, really. Interesting weather patterns, right? We keep on having it's just like summer-like, and then all of a sudden it's chilly, and it's kind of been bouncing all over the place. And like I mentioned, we got some snow flying in Western Canada today, which, fall needs to be a little bit longer. It's just a tad bit short. I would like it a little bit more extended, but I guess we will take the moisture. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hear a Canola School episode. You can find more episodes of the Canola School by going to canolaschool.com. It is brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola. I had the chance to talk to Allana Lewchuk of BASF, looking at the differences between, and differences not only maybe from a growing perspective, but also the business end of the decision going with a commercial hybrid versus maybe one of the specialty oils. Here's Allana Lewchuk from BASF. And we're joined today by Allana Lewchuk. She is a technical service specialist with BASF based in Kenora, Saskatchewan. Allana, great to have you here on the Canola School.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So today we're going to talk about specialty oil. And this is an area that BASF is focused on, as well as a number of other competitors in the canola marketplace. There is a difference between specialty oils and the regular commercial, let's call it, canola oil that is very popular around the world as well. So let's start off by what is specialty oil and where is it used today in the marketplace?
Okay, so starting off with specialty canola oil, it's really a hybrid that has been bred to have a high percentage of oleic acid, which is your monounsaturated fats, as well. It also has low polyunsaturated fats. So again, it's bred into the canola hybrid. So it is a little different than regular canola. This fat oil profile offers really a stability. It has high heat stability, as well as extension in longer longevity, I guess, if I want to put it that way, from a shelf life standpoint. So it's a little different than regular canola. So again, don't get me wrong, regular canola is is a healthy oil for consumers as well. So just really where this differentiates itself is, again, that it has this high oleic acid, which this monounsaturated fats is really key from a high smoke point. It allows food manufacturers and restaurants to be able to fry at a high temperature, and that high heat. It's when it's cooked at that high heat, we call it a high smoke point, that it really maintains the quality without altering the taste of that food. You kind of ask, why is it being used today? So I think it really goes back to labeling of trans fats. So back in 2005, I believe it was, that there was a regulation come into place where food manufacturers needed to label trans fats. So this high oleic oil really comes to the market with it's high in unsaturated fats, it's low in saturated fats, and most importantly, it has zero trans fats.
Is there any difference in how the high oleic canola, the specialty oil, and say a regular commercial oil, is it how it's produced? Is it crushed differently, or is it the same?
No, it is still crushed the same. So really what comes down to it is those attributes of the oil content. So again, that high oleic, and on the other side, the low linolenic is where that specialty canola falls in. So it's just a little different oil profile than a regular commodity canola.
And when we talk about the use, it could be, in a bottle that you buy in the grocery store, or food manufacturers or the restaurant trade using that product because of some of the features you talked about, flash point, smoke point, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think with this specialty canola oil, a lot is used from food manufacturing and a fry oil. Again, that high smoke point, but it is a healthy fat, which is of course really important in that food space. It's versatile, so it's a versatile product used, in multiple applications, like you said, from cooking to frying. It's even used in snacking. Snack foods and of course in food manufacturing. And then again, that longer shelf life is what is really key as well for those end use customers.
Yeah. Now, when we think about the hybrids that are in the field, are there any differences between a specialty oil hybrid and a regular commercial hybrid?
We've seen that evolution over time, and I'll speak to from my perspective with the Invigor Health. We introduced our first health hybrid back in 2008, and we've seen that evolution of those traits come along as our Invigor product has also introduced pod shatter technology and club root genetics. So that has come along with our health hybrids as well. So from a grower standpoint, these specialty canolas that are offered in the market today are truly, performing up there with the regular commodity canola that's grown today. Yeah.
So that yield drag, like what you're talking about there, the yield drag that we maybe saw years ago, that gap's been closed?
The gap has been closed. And again, with the technology and the breeding that's come along with these hybrids, we really see really strong performing hybrids that are offered in the market today.
So when we see the specialty oil market from an acreage standpoint, what percentage of the acreage right now are specialty oil?
So right now it's about 10%, probably a little higher than that at this point. So, it's in that 10% market share.
And what's the main reason growers are choosing to go with the specialty oil?
So really, one of the main reasons with specialty canola oil is it does offer a premium. So growers are able to capture a premium over and above commodity canola. The other thing that comes along with specialty canola is, contract, maybe take some of that risk out of marketing it, because of course at the end of the day, it's going to an end use customer. So the grower is able to lock in a contract, potentially can pick the the particular time that they want to deliver this product. And again, sometimes when commodity prices are maybe a little bit depressed or lower, that this is where growers really feel they have the advantage of, growing a product that's performing very strongly and being able to extract the premium from it.
Well, what's the next steps? I'm just thinking, like, if there's the yield drag gap is closed and there's a premium, these are a lot of things that are working in the grower's favor. Is a case we need to create more demand downstream for specialty oil at the end user points in order to increase those acres?
Yeah, I think that's, coming. And I think we've seen that continually grow. The expansion of the high oleic, especially canola oil, the demand is certainly there. So I think we've certainly seen this continue to grow over the last number of years, and more interest. I feel like conversations I'm having, more interest from growers in growing this product, and so therefore that would translate into more acres, and therefore from an end use customer, there's more production available.
So, Allana, earlier I was asking you about the differences between the hybrids, specialty hybrids versus the commercial hybrids. Are there a lot of hybrid options when it comes to specialty oil varieties?
Yeah, growers have options. There's options. There's Roundup Ready technology. There's Liberty Link technology. There's Clearfield. So growers do have options. There is multiple companies that have a player in this market, in this high oleic market, and so growers do have choices.
Okay, cool. When it comes to Invigor Health, growers can obviously talk to Cargill or Richardson's. When you are talking to your retailer about a specialty oil hybrid for canola, are there questions that the grower should be asking when deciding on which one to grow?
Yeah, to really determine whether this hybrid is right for you. And I think maybe some things I would expand on is just making sure you're prepared for growing, especially canola oil. So with that, it is identity preserved. So maybe I didn't mention that before, but it does need to be binned separately, separate than your commodity canola. So I think it's always important for growers to remember that if they're planning to grow specialty canola, that they need that bin space. So it's forward thinking to the end of that growing season as where you're going to store this until that crush plant is ready to call for it. One other maybe tip would be thinking about controlling those volunteer canolas. So again, we talked a little bit about that oil profile and how especially canola oil profile is different than a regular canola oil profile. So you got to think about that. If, I'll use the example of if you're an Invigor grower regularly growing, commodity Invigor, and now you plan to grow a specialty Invigor Health hybrid, you want to take into consideration, really managing those volunteers ahead of time, because you don't want regular volunteer commodity canola coming into your crops, right, and altering that oil profile. So it's important to use, a pre-seed burn off like a Certitude plus glyphosate to really manage, and that includes, of course, all herbicide tolerant volunteer canola. Get that crop off to a clean start, and be ready for your season. But aside from that, everything is very similar, that you're treating that crop exactly the same until it goes in the bin.
Well, Allana, thanks so much for joining us here today on the Canola School.
Thank you, Shaun. I really appreciate you including me today to have this talk.
That was Allana Lewchuk of BASF Canada. You can find more episodes of the Canola School by going to canolaschool.com. The best answer for agronomically effective dual nitrogen protection? It's Super U premium fertilizer from Koch Agronomic Services. To learn how this ready-to-use granular fertilizer protects nitrogen and boosts efficiency, visit kochag.ca. We'll be right back with more of Agronomic Monday on RealAg Radio right after this.
Advanced canola trait technology is here. And it's soon to be the talk of the town. Optimum Glide delivers excellent yield potential and agronomic trait performance. Improved crop safety. Enhanced weed control. And a wider window of application. You're going to want to see this. Learn more at OptimumGlide.ca.
Peter Johnson at WheatPete, RealAgriculture.com. I'm the host of The Word, and I love doing The Word. I love the questions. I love the challenges. I love having to apply agronomics to all over the globe and areas outside of my normal jurisdiction. Also, I love the feedback the most, where growers challenge me, tell me about their plot results, help me to learn. The Word, absolutely the best part of my day.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Agronomic Monday. I want to talk to you about CDC Envy CWRS with impressive yields, early maturity, outstanding standability, and a robust disease package. With CDC Envy, your wheat crop will be the talk of the town. Learn more at allianceseed.com, or you can call 877-279-2890. That is 877-279-2890. Okay, to finish up today's show, we're going to talk about hybrid selection. Now, this is about corn, but I think it applies to all crop types: canola, wheat, pulses, whatever. We're going to hear from Aidan Filipchuk, who is with Pride Seeds, talking about matching your silage hybrids to the field potential. Like I said, I think this applies to all crop types. Here's Aidan.
Yeah, so depending on your area, it's really good to know what heat units your area can generate throughout the growing season. Each hybrid is going to have a heat unit recommendation on it, so just really knowing what you can grow is going to help really get you to the best quality silage you can get. Knowing your soil type is going to be important too. So different hybrids are going to perform differently on, say, sandy or compared to a more heavy clay soil. Going to like your seed company's website, usually they will have a description on what they see best, and knowing your population and how they do that. Depending if you like to plant at a higher population or a lower population, hybrids are best fit at different populations, whether it be silage or grain hybrids. Also, it's always good to look back on your prior year. Maybe if you grew corn last year and you've seen heavy insect damage, you might want to go with a ribbed variety. That's going to give you some more protection against European corn borer, which has been pretty prominent this year.
Mm-hmm. Is European corn borer making a big impact on the yields, are you thinking?
I'd say most guys are kind of switching over to a rib variety, or what we have as a G2. Guys that haven't really had planted those rib varieties, they are seeing a little bit of an impact. This year's been especially bad. Maybe it's due to the later planting, so corn borer was just a little bit more established when the plants were more vulnerable. But yeah, it can make a huge impact on yield.
Okay, and then what are you looking for in a variety? Is it going to change depending on what you're doing with it? So let's say you're going to be grazing it versus silaging it, or if there's going to be, if you're running a dairy, what are you looking at for the different varieties in that?
Yeah, so silage varieties typically are going to be maybe not as great on the feed analysis side, sometimes I should say, but those plants you're going to see, they're going to be the tallest ones in your field, nice big ear, those are going to get you your tons. That's going to be kind of what more fit for a beef area, beef industry. Guys with a lot of acres are going to like that because you might not get that feed analysis, but you're going to get tons. If you're growing it for a dairy, you're going to want to really look at that feed analysis. Starch is a big one. Milk per acre is also going to be a pretty useful tool to look at on the feed sheet to see how your crop's going to do. Especially if you have limited acres to grow corn, you want the highest feed analysis you can get. When it comes to grazing, silage specifics are also quite good because they're typically going to have a longer harvestability window and a longer stay green. So that means your plant's going to stay green longer, going to have a little bit stronger standability when you're in the winter months. There's going to be less wastage when those cows or whatever else are going to be grazing
Put out on it. So I'm guessing when it comes time to, start looking at what you've got for feed value out in the field, you're going to be wanting to send it for a feed test. And what exactly should guys be looking for when it comes to their corn and their hybrids for nutrient value.
Yeah, so it's always good to get a feed test done, see what you're actually feeding those animals. With us, when we look at our feed sheets, we're going to look at for 7 different things. Starting off, you're going to see on your feed analysis, most guys are going to have an as-fed column and your dry basis. We're going to be wanting to look at that dry basis because that's going to be your actual levels that's in your feed. So that's your moisture taken out of it, and that's what's actually going to be getting up into those animals and being available for digestibility. Looking at dry matter, that's going to be your actual feed, like I said, what you're going to be feeding out. Starch levels, that's going to be very important, especially for dairies. That's going to provide your energy for your animals. You want to see greater than 30, I would say like 32 to 38 is pretty good. The higher the better, so you can't really go wrong with that. TDN is going to stand for your total digestible nutrients. This is very important for both beef and dairy settings. It's going to be a measure of your digestible fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Another value we can look for is your net energy of lactation, or your NEL. So that's going to be more specific for dairies, but it's going to give you an understanding of your energy production for lactation, and your TDN is going to be the direct energy for your feed. So your NDF, or your nutrient detergent fiber, is going to be your measure of digestibility, or consumption, I should say. So the lower the NDF value, the higher consumption it's going to be. So that's going to be a direct measure of stuff like lignin and fiber. So those aren't going to be highly digestible, and like the more fiber in it, they're going to fill up quicker. They're not going to consume as much. On the reverse side, NDFD is going to be a value that mimics what the uptake in your animal after digestion. We use 48 hours. Dairies, typically the standards for 36 hours, but looking at that, it's going to be the opposite of your NDF. The higher the value, the better your feed's going to be. Your ADF, or acid detergent fiber, is going to be a measure of your least digestible stuff, so your lignins and your non-digestible carbohydrates. So your ADF, you want the lowest value you can get, because that's going to correlate to a higher digestibility in your feed. Your milk per ton is going to be a direct correlation to the overall quality of your feed. This is really important for when you're assessing your harvestability. When you're getting at that 65% moisture, you're going to have the highest quality feed you can get. Depending on the hybrid, it may vary moisture-wise, but knowing that in what moisture your hybrid is going to give you the highest feed value is going to be important. Beef per acre is basically the beef industry's equivalent to milk per acre.
Okay, and then going into this next season here, where guys are going to start selecting their hybrids, how much can the wrong hybrid in your area impact what those final numbers are at the end of the season?
Yeah, so selecting hybrids that are too long for your season, you may have the nicest looking cornfield, they might be the tallest, but that won't mean a whole lot when you're chopping water. You're going to see a lot of wastage seeping out of that feed bunk if you can't get it at the right moisture. If you are growing a hybrid that's a little bit too short for your season, or you waited too long or something happened and it's your overall plant moisture is too dry, you're going to see very limited fermentation in your pit. It won't pack as nice, and you need fermentation to really increase those feed analysis values.
Right, definitely. And I mean, you were talking about how depending on your environment and your soil and everything, that's one of the main factors that you're going to use to choose your hybrid, right? So what can producers do, or where can they go if they need to talk to somebody and, just to kind of nail down some of these answers? Because I don't know, how many hybrid varieties are there? There's probably a lot of them,
lots,
right? Yeah.
So, I'd encourage growers, if they have any questions, to just call your Pride Seeds agronomist or any agronomist that you work with, or your retails. They're going to have some knowledge on what hybrids grow better in what conditions. You can also go to our website at prideseeds.com. That's going to give you good descriptions of each hybrid, our populations we like to see those planted at, as well as other conditions, if it's good across multiple soil types, more specific for sandy, that kind of stuff.
And do they change a lot depending on, well, we spoke about Ontario, if we're, depending on the province even, are they changing a lot across Canada?
Yeah, I would say so. With the disease and insect pressure that keeps increasing every year, we're coming out with new hybrids with that just give growers a better peace of mind, more protection in the field. Heat unit wise, Alberta has quite a span. Is much like other provinces up north, we're getting really short season hybrids are performing really well, and then down south we can maybe push the heat units a little bit and just optimize our tonnage and feed analysis on those. So yeah, every year comes with new developments, new agronomy, and we're excited to see what the future holds.
Definitely. And so we talked about too the feed value in the corn, but what if this is a grower's first year and they don't have anything to go off of, right? Because it's nice to have those numbers to back you up, but you don't always have that. So what would you say to the new guy that's coming in being like, hey, I want to try corn next year?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. If you are trying or looking to try in corn, you can go to our website again. We have plot results, and you can see the actual what happened in that year, how the corn grew, tonnage, everything like that. We do have feed analysis values as well on the website you can look at. And yeah, I really encourage just to talk with your agronomist. We're here to help you guys, and that will give you the best peace of mind.
That was Aidan Filipchuk from Pride Seeds. You can find more episodes of the Corn School by going to cornschool.com. I mentioned this earlier, but Brandt Agricultural Products, they have this Brandt high-speed disc. It's made to manage residue, condition seed beds, level ruts, and reclaim wetlands in the most challenging of conditions. Lead the field with a lineup of versatile high-speed discs from Brandt and achieve better results with every pass. And they also have, for a limited time, up to a $12,000 rebate. Money back to you in your pocket to be used in other places. Visit Brandt.ca for more information. Thanks so much, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio, and we'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.